Okay, now we're going to talk about growth. 50% of the Fortune 500 companies from 1955, and that's when the Fortune 500 companies started, do not exist today. 50%. They're all gone. And you know, so since 55, when the Fortune 500 was created, more than 1,800 companies have appeared on the list. Many of these companies have changed their names over the period owing to mergers, acquisitions, and bankruptcies. Other companies have gone private or simply changed their names. One example is Chrysler. Chrysler's gone from the Fortune 500 company because it's a privatized company now. It went out of business. There's many, many others. So the world has changed. So even though I wasn't in business in 55, I was only 10, I know that there's names. I don't think there's Montgomery Ward anymore. There's a lot of things that aren't around anymore. And and not all of them left in a good way. A lot of them left in a bad way. Enron, I think, was a Fortune 500 company. It's obviously gone as well. 6.5 billion people on Earth, less than 50% with phones. Growth. Well, I told you telecommunications. So we got half of 6.5 billion people that can still buy phones. In China, some people have 2-3 phones. They carry 2-3 phones on their belt. I mean, so there's a lot of phones, and that's why the competition is so fierce in the phone business, because there's a lot of phones still to be sold. Even less with, that's with regular phones. I got ahead of myself. That's with regular phones, let alone cellular phones. Even less with the internet. So that's why everybody's so hot to be in the internet business, because there's literally millions, billions of internet laptops, laptops that can be sold. By 2050, the population of the planet of Earth will double. So there's going to be 13 billion looking for internet, 13 billion looking for cell phones, wow, stationary phones. I mean, it's a huge market. So when I said telecommunication 25 years ago, and healthcare, I mean, I'm not a prodigy, but I knew what I was talking about. Among the fast-growing companies, 95% of the failures are due to internal problems. Of the companies that evaporated, of those Fortune 500 companies that have come and gone, went, most of them left because of internal problems. They couldn't adapt. As Darwin would say, from Galapagos, they couldn't adapt. And they couldn't adapt to a lot of things. And a lot of people blame it on interest rates, this, that, and the other thing. Now they're blaming global warming. But there's always a reason that, as Freud would say, intellectual reason to come up with for your excuse or your failure to be able to manage and adapt. And nothing's changed. Nothing's changed. Annual market for U.S. small companies for sale is estimated at over $200 billion a year. Now, 95% of these companies don't sell. Why don't they sell, Dave?
Because they don't try to sell it.
No, that's part. Because they want too much money. Like you. And why do they want too much money for their fucking company? The little Rufus Doofus lumber mill. Why do they want too much money? Because they have not had a history, a life of a series of transactions. They're all trying to get rich off one motherfucking deal. They waste their whole fucking life. Sweetheart. they waste their whole fucking life, and then they decide to sell because they're spitting up blood with emphysema, and now they want to sell. And they pray to God, Buddha or Allah, that it's time to sell now. Well, invariably, when you're spitting up blood, it's not time to sell. So if I come in and you're spitting up blood, it's a bad sign, because I'm not going to feel sorry for you. When I used to sell life insurance, and I'd sit in the kitchen tables with Mr. and Mrs. Doofus, and she's smoking, spitting up blood, and he's not spitting up blood yet, but he's smoking. I said, these are perfect for high premiums. These people are perfect, Allah sent me to him. Because we all wait until it's too fucking late. If you're 40 years old and you're up market, sell. That's been my advice for a long, long time, and it still is my advice. Yes?
One question. You know the numbers of my company.
Correct.
Is it right to blow them up and sell it, I don't know, in a half a year or in 1 year? It's better to sell it now.
Oh, it's better. Is your market in an up market, a flat market, or a down market? The industry you're in?
It's slowly up market.
Okay,
5%.
it was 5%. What was it 5 years ago?
The same.
Okay, what is it projected to be 5 years from now?
Nearly the same, I think.
Nearly the same, okay.
I don't know.
Well, it depends. If you have something, if you find something better to do, forgetting your brother and your father, if you find something better to do, take the cash and do something else. Because if it's in a slowly increasing market, nothing's going to change much. But that would give you that'll give you a year to sell it. I mean, to do the things that we're going to talk about, how to sell a company on Friday.
My company can grow faster because I implemented some things that we are cheaper than the other one in the production.
Mhm.
Okay, but I think I have to blow it up by myself. I think I have to blow it up around about a half a year or 1 year. Maybe I can double the
And then sell.
the revenue.
And then sell.
And then sell.
Yeah.
I think.
Okay, when we talk about selling Friday, you'll see, okay? Okay. And more of the 6.5 billion people around the world will buy soft drinks. This is another area I like, but I don't like as much as healthcare and telecommunication. But everybody's buying soft drinks. You go to India, there's Pepsi-Cola every place you go. I mean, soft drinks, because they want, they want to westernize themselves.
What about the powders?
Huh?
The powders, the sodas, the waters, the energy.
No, I mean, the energy drinks are way down the totem pole. They represent a small percentage of Coca-Cola, etc. People still want to put their hand on a can or a bottle. And so we're looking for worldwide markets that make sense. Telecommunication, healthcare, everybody's, I don't like to call this junk food, but it is junk food, because Coke and that shit's not good for you. Diet Coke and Diet shit is even worse for you. But, I mean, there are certain things that are going to continue to grow no matter what. I'm not saying that they're recession-proof, but they're pretty close to being recession-proof. They're pretty close. People are going to buy cell phones. People are going to buy laptops. People are going to try to save their lives at the hospital, irrespective of recession or depression. The market cap for real estate investment trust industry has gone from $9 billion in 1990 to $100 billion in 1997 to $350 billion by the end of 2000. Well, it's already passed. I think it'll be $4 trillion in 10 to 15 years. Okay, a real estate investment trust is a public company that owns real estate assets that by law has to pay out 90 or 96% of all their dividends yearly. It's a real estate investment trust. And Sam Zell, the guy from Chicago, the billionaire guy from Chicago, is the guy that is big in that industry. So the real estate market, dividend-paying real estate market is going to be larger and larger, but now they're paying less and less. So whereas they may have bought $1 billion or $1 trillion worth of real estate, now they're buying $1 trillion worth of estate for $500 billion. But that's not changing the market. I mean, people are still doing real estate investment trusts. So real estate is going to be a good market, a growing market, but I mean, right now all the prices are down. So people that have cash are picking those pieces of real estate up. Every time somebody sells a property at a loss, somebody's buying it at a profit. So just because you weren't smart enough to know when to get out of the real estate market or not get into the real estate market, there are people that were smart enough. As I told you, the kids of today are going to experience 6 or 7 career changes, not different jobs. 6 or 7 career changes. That's why I say you kids can do 6 or 7 deals before your time's up. Sweetheart here is running out of runway. She's running out of runway. Not standing her new looks. She's running out of runway. And so am I, running out of runway. But you guys certainly aren't. The skill with a maximum shelf life is creativity. We're talking about growth. What do you have that differentiates you from everybody else? How can you participate in this growth market? Rick Scott, I told him 25 years ago, telecommunications are healthcare, Rick. He took healthcare, created the biggest healthcare company in the world.
Made a lot of money.
Made a shit ton of money, yeah. And now he's buying his way into politics. God bless you. And when you're governor of Florida and we're down there, we're going to be paying him a visit.
Okay.
Paying him a visit. Rick, So,
Is that the person on one of your tapes who was explaining
ahead.
how donuts are made?
donuts, that's him.
That's it?
That's Rick. Donuts, he's the Dunkin' Donut man. One of the cheapest white men that I ever knew. I told you, he bought a Buick, 77 Buick. He didn't have a radio in it because he said it was too expensive. So he bought it without it. I don't know anybody, well, I do know. Bunker Hunt didn't have a radio in his car either. But I mean, and he's a billionaire. He put a little transistor radio and hung it on a string over the rearview mirror. He was close with his money. I hear he's still close. So hey, for him to spend $40 million on being governor, I mean, he must have figured it out pretty well that, you know, 40 million. Okay. The maximum shelf life is creativity. Okay, what is growth? Notwithstanding all the shit that's happened with the stock market, if you go back to 1900, this is the Dow Jones, up till about a few months ago. And depression here in the 20s, early 30s, but it's pretty much gone up. It's pretty much gone up. And it almost got the 14,000 back in 2008, and now it's back to 11,000. Okay, and this is the kind of growth that people expect, but this is arithmetic growth. This is, if you take this and you adjust it for inflation, I mean, it's like 8% or 9%, you know, a year. If you don't adjust it for inflation, it's 13% a year or something. So, but as, you know, and everybody'd be happy if everybody's assets were invested here. But unfortunately, they were invested here and sold here, they were invested here and sold here, they were invested here and sold here, they were invested here and sold here. Okay. Doris can tell you a little bit about that at dinner. Okay. So, but that's normal growth, and if you can wait, if you got 110 years to wait, no problem. Just slap it into an index fund and wait. And the young kids can't wait. They can wait 50 years, but they certainly can't wait 110 years. Okay. But this is what we were raised with. This is the thought process. This is the gene pool that we came out of. The U.S. national debt clock. This was for the last seminar. We had $12.8 trillion in debt. We had 308 million people in America. We had each share of debt to each citizen was $41,000. The national debt has continued to increase an average of 4.1 billion per day. Okay. And what's Congress doing? Nothing. They're just jerking off.
That doesn't include Social Security.
No. Okay. Now we got 309 million people. Now debt's gone from 41 to 44,000 per person in America. The national debt continued to increase an average of 4.18 billion, up from 4.11 billion per day since September 28, 2007. Thanks. So this is also growth. This is also good. Robert and I wish that we had an index on this, and we had some money on it.
I've actually seen some statistics that show this doesn't include Social Security and a few other things. But it's actually around 75 trillion.
Yeah, it could be. I don't know that. As a nation, the USA borrowed 2.5 trillion per year without mortgages. The average USA family has 9 credit cards. 9. That's also growth. You used to not have any credit cards. Worst new home sales records on record in USA. Worst foreclosure rate in all of history. U.S. economy is in bad shape, and that's an understatement. And it's only going to get worse before it gets better, which is true.
He's a smart guy.
Yeah, he is. The business findings have gone up to 1.2 million, non-business 1.15 million, business 49,000. So these people business finding bankruptcy.
Oh, okay.
Bankruptcy. This is also growth. People always ask me, Dan, how can you buy somebody's debt? I say in the tapes, you can buy somebody's debt even if they don't want to sell. You know how I say? I told your dad, I told everybody that listen. Well, this is an example. Carl Icahn is buying up all the cards, still smarting from the flop gamble on Blockbuster. The billionaire investor yesterday upped the ante in his showdown with developer Donald Trump over ownership of 3 bankrupt Trump casinos in Atlantic City. Icahn quietly gained control yesterday of the half of the casino's mortgage that he didn't already own he bought back the half of the mortgage held by Texas banker Alan Beal, a requirement of one of the covenants of the original mortgage deal. So he's bought the debt up. And people say, you can't buy the... Bullshit, you can't. You can even buy debt if it's not in foreclosure. If the bank doesn't like Dave, and apparently they don't like Dave, and I go to his bank in Reno...
She loves me.
Huh?
She loves me.
Okay, well, and I say, I'm willing to pay you $1.25 for every dollar of debt that he owes you. There's a fair chance that she sell it to me. Then now you owe me the debt.
The question I was going to ask
Can you call a loan?
And now I call the loan.
Is it possible to make sure that there is a clause in that new loan that precludes them from selling it to anybody?
No.
Why?
They won't do that.
No, why
Because
would you buy debt?
why would I buy debt? Because it controls assets. The same reason Carl Icahn wanted to control, the debt out of bankruptcy, and he didn't want to take the chance of buying the assets out of bankruptcy, so he's going to just take the debt. Because to tell the bank they can't sell your debt, it's like saying you can't collateralize your debt. And that nobody does that because they have the ability to collateralize your debt, roll it up into a big packet, securitize it, and sell it on to somebody else. That gives them more viable opportunities to make fees. It gives them more viable opportunities to change their risk profile.
Isn't their reputation at stake? If they're
Not for your loan. They'd be glad to get rid of your loan.
But like you guys were saying at lunch before, if Google knows you're doing good, you're in fucking trouble because they can just come in and jack you.
Yeah, well, I mean, you don't want Google to know your name. Better, but I mean, as soon as you start making big money, Google knows your name.
That's why he's
It's not like you can keep it a secret.
Well, in the internet marketing business.
What is big money?
I mean, I don't know what big money, but I mean, if you're making $500,000 a day, there's not that many people making $500,000 a day in Google. There's probably not that many people making $100,000 a day in Google. And so your head pops up, and because they want Google to be for the masses. That's why they continue to change algorithms, because they want it to be for the masses, a mass marketing. They want 300 guys to make $1 trillion off of it.
So they can come in and look at Robert's company and say, "This guy's making a lot of money. I want to buy it." And without any
No, they're not going to want to buy it.
They'll just shut it down.
They'll just whack his accounts.
Shut you down.
They'll just shut him down, whack it, and he's fucked.
Oh,
And they can do that?
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. They do it every week.
I don't understand how they can do that though.
They can, because you operate. Part of the operating agreement on Google is you're there at their behest. I mean, you have to play the game. It's like when you go to a website and it says, "Have you read all this shit?" Click yes. And if you don't read all that shit, you can't get on.
Mm-hmm.
When you get on the Google thing, you're playing by their rules,
Right.
and they have the ability to change the rules whenever they want.
So why would they go after him if he's making too much money?
Because that means if he's making too much money, that means there's 50,000 people that aren't making as much money. And they want rather have millions and millions and millions or billions of people make about the same than 4 or 5 guys, make big money.
If for the mass.
Yeah, it's for the masses. Yeah.
I still don't understand the debt part. Why would somebody go in and buy debt for 125%, somebody's debt?
Because the assets that is securing it is worth 500%.
Oh, okay, well then that makes sense.
Okay.
Okay, got
In this
it,
case,
okay.
Carl wanted to buy Trump's casinos.
Gotcha,
Yeah,
gotcha.
and that was more of a personal pissing match.
You took him?
Huh?
He took him?
Yeah, I took them. Okay. Here's more growth. You're going to notice all these slides that we're not going to spend a lot of time on are all bad growth. This is not good growth. This is bad. U.S. government spending, federal plus state and local, over the last 130 years.
Wow.
Now, the interesting thing to note, the only person that slowed it down was Ronald Reagan,
Mm.
80. And then it's kind of flattened out and it's going up again. I couldn't get a new chart, but he slowed it down. Ronnie, the Gipper, slowed it down. So, you may not think much of him, and you may say a lot of bad things about him. I don't. But, I mean, he slowed it down. He's the only guy since 1913 that slowed it down. Federal spending grows 8 times faster than the economy. Pre-New Deal, which means pre-Depression. New Deal was Depression, FDR. 1940, and then 2009. Grandfather federal spending. Oh, that's the grandfather federal spending report. 8 times faster than economy. State and local government employees grow 12.4 million faster than total population growth rate. I mean, again, since 1945, since I was born. And these are all staggering numbers. And you wonder why people say things are fucked. Well, there's a reason things are fucked. I mean, and there's a reason some of us don't live in the country anymore. This is the U.S. economy from 47 as opposed to today. And the interesting thing about it is, back in 47, the government was only involved in 16% of business. Now the government is involved in 51% of the business. And if Obamacare and that shit doesn't get thrown out, they're going to be involved in more than 51% of the business.
Whoa.
Might as well be a communist country.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of people that say that.
Yeah.
Growing burden of seniors. Senior citizens like myself, poor and helpless people, that barely, and soon to be heard in another 10 years or 12 years. I mean, they can barely eke out a living, barely pay for some, beans and bread on this thing. Poor me. And U.S., Britain, and Germany and Japan are all in the same stake. In fact, Germany has overtaken Japan, and the U.S. has fallen behind Britain. So, I mean, it's the burden of seniors. And the burden of seniors worldwide is shit. And that's why there's rioting in France and rioting in Spain and rioting in Greece, because they're making these bastards work from 55 to 59 or 62 to 60. Now, what's going to happen when they see the retirement age in the United States goes from 65 to 67? Do you think there's going to be riots in the street? Nah. They're not going to set anybody on fire or anything like that, like these other countries. I hope. Government spending, again, per man, per woman, from the total. I mean, the numbers are gigantic. Grandfather, let's see, America's total debt. This is an old number, which was, at that time was current 70 times more than the debt of 1957.
Wow.
Where does all this money go? Not in the movie business. Again, total American debt, 48 trillion. I mean, it is all these. This is what we, and this is what we've been taught. Of course, nobody's putting these charts up, and nobody tells you about this in school. And even though I went to school a long, long time ago, and I've looked at my economics books of my son who just got his MBA, and they don't talk about any of this shit.
I like Roger Dangerfield's when he's sitting in the class and he goes, "That's not the way you do it. You got to grease some hands."
Yeah, and certainly my son didn't learn any of this shit. He knows it because he's read the seminar and he's read the book and all this other shit. And I've been preaching about the debt was going to collapse since 1993, and of course I was 15 years early, and everybody said, "Oh, Pena, if you start crying, even a broken watch is right twice a day." But I didn't get killed like everybody else, or most everybody else, because I just didn't believe, I didn't believe enough that I could invest in them. I had a lot of equity investment opportunities and other opportunities I didn't take advantage of. This is components of total American debt. Basically says the same thing. This one's another way of looking at it. Total American debt, percent national income. I mean, the numbers are going, catastrophically high. This is a notice here, with dollar of debt per dollar of national income. It's way out of whack. Okay, now this is another one, but this is a reverse bad. Diminishing national income return on debt. Okay, used to be 55 cents, now it's below 20 cents. Household debt ratio, going off the charts. Now, an idea gets rejected not because it isn't fundamentally sound, but because no one in top management will personally benefit from it. I said this earlier, I think in Monday. A lot of ideas, not a lot, some ideas, there's no idea, really, there's no way of measuring how many ideas get rejected that could change the course of the world. You don't know. 25% of all startups start with less than 5,000 pounds. That should be dollars, excuse me. 50% start with less than $25,000, 75% start with less than $100,000, and less than 5% with more than $1 million. That should also be dollars. Why is that? Because most companies, these companies anyway, actually from here, 75% are with friends, fools, and family, as we'll see. 10 of the Fortune 500 companies that started with next to nothing. These are current ones. Whole Foods Market, 0. Molson Coors, 0. Apple, 81,000. Nordstrom's, 0. Dell, $12,000. Electronic Data Systems, about $1,000. Mattel, about $1,000. Wrigley, 0. Starbucks, 0. eBay, less than 2,000. Oh no, excuse me, eBay's at the other end. $10,000. Next to nothing. And those became Fortune 500 companies. And they are Fortune 500 companies. Stock option magic at Microsoft. I'm not going to read this, but as I've been telling you ad nauseum since Monday, only reason that Bill Gates started the company was to be able to share ownership. Share ownership because that's the secret to real growth. Did some of the people leave Bill? Yes. Does it make a fuck? No. Starbucks' secret weapon. The company has given a stock option to everyone, from managers to baristas. Now employees see a connection between their work and Starbucks fortunes. Value of stock options. From 1984 to 1997, the value of stock options in the U.S. public companies has grown from $200 million to over $1.2 billion, or over 600%. And from 1997 to 2008, it has grown to $100 billion. And a lot of people have left the companies. It's not just Silicon Valley, because everybody thinks it's Silicon Valley, okay? Morgan Stanley, 91% of their stock is given away to the public options. Merrill Lynch, 40%. Travelers Insurance, 39%. Warner Lambert, 35%. Microsoft, 32%. JP Morgan, 29%. Lehman Brothers, which is gone now, 28%. U.S. Airways, which is also gone, 26%. Sun Microsystems, 25%. Marriott, 25%. Bankers Trust, General Mills, MCI, those are big, huge percentages of big, huge companies that they were giving away in stock options. Why do they do it? Do they do it because they want to be Mr. Generous, like, Mr. Russian here? No. They do it because it fucking works! Because these people wouldn't give you ice in fucking winter. Like Dave. If you send him to Hawaii for $300 or send him to Manila for $800 and give him $200 to spend, pales in complexion to this system. And if I had any intelligence whatsoever, which I have a lot, but I really, when I gave away stock and stock options, I mean, it was easily one of the smartest things I ever did. Easily one of the smartest things I ever did. Because they start working like it's their business. And of course you're going to make mistakes. And of course you're going to get some prick that's no good, but that's really never happened to me.
So 91% of Morgan Stanley's stock, total issue not outstanding stock, is in the form of stock options.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Quantum leap, sudden highly significant advanced breakthrough. Physicists studying quantum mechanics note that particles make these jumps without an apparent effort and without covering all the bases between the starting and the ending points. So it's possible in physics. Quantum leaps require to take the offensive. You can't achieve exponential gains and success from a defensive posture. Remember, you can't also from a defensive posture because the blood doesn't get to the brain. Remember we went through all that shit? Okay. You can't remain in a passive stance and make a quantum leap. A quantum leap is a move you're prepared to make, you just haven't done it yet. This is a concept that some of the people get and some people don't. The person that got it the quickest ever that I ever had a seminar, not the most successful, but the person that got it the quickest that understood what I was getting at was Sean Casey. When we brought the whole team there for LeGrand. He sat in the back of the room after I told everybody, most of you are going to be gone, you're worthless pieces of shit, yada, yada. And I went around and he's leaning back. Looks like he wasn't paying attention. And Sean's a really smart guy. He's a smart lawyer. And he said, I got it. I'm going to be here. Yeah, I can see where all these morons won't be here. And these are his buddies sitting around the table. He says, but I got it. And he did get it. He understood. He understood the leverage, and he understood, more importantly, the leverage with people. It's commonly held that there is such a thing as the creative spark, writes Hofstadter in Scientific American. Any of you read Scientific American? I didn't think so. Anyway, that when a brilliant mind comes up with a new idea or work of art, there has been a quantum leap of ordinary mortals. People such as Mozart are held to be somehow divinely inspired, to have magical insights. But I contend that the creative spark is not the exclusive property of a few rare individuals, but rather part of everyday mental activity of everyone, even the most ordinary people. I agree with that. But you got to be looking for it. You're not just walking down the street waiting for that bolt of lightning to hit you or the Pope to jump out in front of you. You got to look for it, and you got to train your mind for it. Like we were talking about, Tom Edison said, I didn't have 10,000 failures, I just had 10,000 things that didn't work. So what do these other things work for? How should planning occur? We're talking about growth again. The boss sets the goals and everyone follows, or you ask the lower level employees to state their objectives, then move the plan up to the next level until it reaches the top. Obviously, B is the answer. But you got to have the right people. If you don't have the right people, this doesn't work. This is called management by objectives. If you don't have the right people, it doesn't work. It just flat ass doesn't work, you know. Now, I was privileged to be in the CEO's office of Reebok, which makes tennis shoes, training shoes, with the CEO. And he was on a board of mine that I was chairman of, when I was also in the entertainment business, come to think of it. I've been in the entertainment business more than I remember. Anyway, we were in Boston, and we had the head of the math department of Harvard, and we had all these rocket scientists around the room. But when I was in his office, I went over to meet him at lunch, and I said, what's this? And he said, that's my plan. That's my 3-year plan. I said, for what? That's my 3-year plan. I said, that's my 3-year plan for turning around Reebok.
Oh, Jesus.
And I went up and looked at it, and it was, and I said, then he explained it to me. I said, okay. I said, well, who did you use this for? And I said, I brought in my directs. That means the people that reported him directly, and my division heads. And we sat down in a room like this, and I went, and I drew it as I'm talking. Like this. And I told him this is how we were going to reform, transform, whatever you want to call it, Reebok, to compete better with Adidas and Nike. I said, can I have this? So I rolled it up and took it home, because this is what I believe. But it's hard, and this guy's an MBA from MIT, the Sloan School. This guy is a rocket scientist. And I said, can I? I said, yeah, it doesn't mean shit, you know, I can do it again. And I said, how long did it take? It took me about 20, 25 minutes. And then we had maybe 2 hours of questions, and that was it. I said, okay, doofus, you run with that, and Marcus, and Benjamin, and Mikey, and what about all the benchmarks, and the projections, and the this, and the that? And there weren't any. There weren't any.
Do as much as you can as soon as humanly possible.
Yeah, just get out there and fucking do it. Yeah, you know, if you get in a problem, let me know. But hopefully you won't have any problems. Just go out and hit the road. Don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out. And this is one method of pumping up the end game. In other words, pumping up your efficiency. You know, because a lot of people, you can't just put that chart up there and you scribble it because they go, you know. And so you have to institute, you know, of course, processes. And now, with that thing that he had there, came processes, procedures, and systems. They came after the fact, not before the fact. Okay, now, scope out the end game. You want to be able to tell your people what the end game is. and you want, will the decision enhance your company's reputation or gradually undermine it? In other words, they have to understand that the process that they're involved in is going to help the business, it's going to help the company, it's going to help even their project. You want to have a media check, right? 3 or 4 potential headlines, positive and negative. Now this is for bigger companies. For smaller companies, you don't need a media check. The secretary strategy check. The strategy check.
Of course.
Yeah. The strategy check. Decisions often make good tactical sense, but fail the strategy check. In other words, you made a business decision. You understand that structure follows strategy. In other words, you put down a strategy. We're going to do this. For example, we're going to do government contracts. Okay. Now, what's the structure we're going to attach to most efficiently attack the government contract market? We know the government contracts are bid in February and October. Okay. I believe their year end is in October. It used to be. So we passed the October deadline, so now we got to get ready for the first 6 months, the February deadline. So we're going to scope out, and now I'm sure it's all online. I'm positive. In my day, you fill out forms this thick. So we'll associate the structure to follow up on our strategy decision and make sure that we're not doing anything to alienate that. And then we need our people that are going to actually do the grunt work, the footwork, to understand it and to push it forward. Does the decision offer a quick fix that could hamper your competitiveness later? This isn't a quick fix. This is going to be an intermediate and a long-term deal, because once you get one government contract, it's easy to get the next contract, the next contract. But as soon as, and we're going to, part of our due diligence, our homework is going to find out, are there anybody else in your business, soon to be our business, that is doing this? Because if it's not, as soon as she does it, there'll be 3 million people doing it. Because it's a small industry. As soon as it gets out in a trade paper that she won this contract, every Tom, Dick, and Harry is going to be doing government contracts. Fortunately, the government being stupid as they are, yes, I say, fortunately for the government being stupid as they are, the people that get on board first will have a distinct advantage. They call it first movers advantage. And I will be running around the country saying how fucking hard it is to do business with the government. Sending out misinformation. Just like the fucking politicians do. We may have to scratch this part of the tape out. Just like the politicians do. We will engage in misinformation. God, am I sorry we ever got involved in this. We ain't going to make a fucking nickel on this contract. I mean, that Doris is an old fucking hag. She's crazy. I don't know how she ever got involved in this piece of shit. Etc., etc., etc. You know, because we don't want anybody. And by the time they figure out that Pena may be exaggerating again, and maybe it's not that hard, and the monkeys are getting into business. They've even gotten into business, And you want to turn these ideas, like I just alluded to teachable moments to her people that are already there, you want them to unite on the strategy, so we're all rowing in the same direction. Now, I never had any problem handling the truth, but associates who don't agree with decisions being made have a responsibility to speak up. Remember I talked about candor? Remember I talked about Jack Welch as the biggest problem in business today, not just in there, but in Germany, every place, is candor, because people won't speak up. Now that has never been my problem. I've always spoke up, and I got chastised a lot of times for it, and that's why I didn't get hired by Carnation, and that's why I didn't get hired by Scott Paper, because they knew that I was going to be speaking up too much, so they just forgot about hiring me. Okay. The loyalty and criticism are mutually supportive. Slavish loyalty is deadly. You don't want somebody, and I'm sure you got some loyal slaves that just do anything. So we want them to understand why they're doing it. So even though they're a loyal slave and they're good foot soldiers, we don't want them falling on any swords. We want them to understand and benefit both emotionally and financially. You want to build a brain trust of smart people. Every business needs 3, 4, 5, 6 smart people that you can bounce ideas off of, and you can, interchange and not get pissed off if somebody says that's a dumb idea. It can be more difficult when you're brothers and fathers and shit like that. Believe me, I understand, even though I've never done any business with my dad. But I've been in organizations with fathers, sons, daughters, and it's not easy. It's not impossible, but it's not easy. Avoid the bait and switch. In other words, If you're going to start in game A, stay in game A. Don't start them in game A and then switch them over because they're middle management or lower management, they're not going to be able to cope. Especially in the Philippines. They're not going to be able to cope. This results when supervisors take a great game, promise self-management, and then later renege. You can't renege. Even if it costs you, you got to follow through, and you can't renege. This is a 21st century feedback chart that ties in employee satisfaction, client satisfaction, or the customer satisfaction, profitability, and motivation. And according to this, they all equal or equally weighted. I don't believe that, but they're all equally weighted. Maybe at some great company that was voted in the top 10, maybe they're all equally weighted. But my experience has been that this rules profitability. And the second thing that rules is client satisfaction. And I would rather have profitability and client satisfaction and maybe less motivation. But if you don't keep them motivated, you're not going to have client satisfaction. Okay? And if you don't have employee satisfaction, and that means you're not going to be motivated, you're not going to have client satisfaction. So even though these two things are the most important to me, profitability and client satisfaction, you have to take into consideration employee satisfaction and motivation. Now, as Sam Walton said, the customer tells you by spending his money whether he still likes you or not, and he can give it to anybody, including the chairman or the CEO. So infinitely, if you don't have enough client satisfaction, your market share will dry up, your business will dry up, and you don't have much to look forward to. Now, and something we find difficult, except for a few top people in the Philippines, for an example, since Doris knows that market, feedback. You give expectations, you make adjustments, and they're supposed to deliver. Well, they can't take too many adjustments. They can't take too many adjustments. And they really can't take too high expectations because they rate themselves against other Filipinos. They don't rate themselves against... you can close the window now. It's cool out. Okay. Okay.
Do you want me to sit over there?
No. Okay, let's sit over there. It's better. Yeah. Okay. They rate themselves not against Cleveland or California or New Mexico. They rate themselves against other Filipinos, and the expectations in the Filipino market is not that high. That's because their self-esteem isn't that high. Of course, you've got to have reporting. You've got to monitor things that get measured, gets accomplished. And you have to establish success criteria, milestones, roles, tasks, status reporting, incentives, goals, targets, resources, responsibilities, estimates, the planned budget. But then you got to hold them accountable. You can go through all this and jerk off all you want, but if you don't hold them accountable, and if Department A doesn't do what they're supposed to, and Department B doesn't do what they're supposed to, and this is all a circle jerk. This is an MBA circle jerk. You got to hold them accountable. And there's always a reason why not to hold them accountable. Transfer of knowledge. That's Robert's favorite. Transfer of knowledge. We can't just fire everybody today because we got all this knowledge transfer. And then sometimes he's right about it, but I think most of the time that's not true. And in certain areas, and programming and stuff like that, maybe it is true. But fortunately, I don't know enough about programming to know if it's true or not. So I can make some decisions that I don't give a shit about transfer of knowledge. We're firing the asshole, But you got to hold them accountable. If you don't hold them accountable, then this is just pissing in the wind. And I've dealt with some really smart guys and gals that have MBAs and PhDs and all this shit. But when it comes down to accountability, because they rank on the pessimism, optimism, and success test, they're too much of pussies. And it's not right to fire people, and it's not right to enjoy firing people. And if you enjoy firing, you got to get out of the business. But you're there for a return on investment. You have a fiduciary responsibility to the shareholders. And if you can't do that, then get the fuck off the bus. And I think, one of the things that brought this home to me the most is when I helped to manage a fund, many years ago. I mean, the shareholders weren't interested in, the reason I didn't do something or I did do something. The shareholders weren't interested in the return on investment. All the rest is bullshit. It's all bullshit. Okay, any questions on this? And we're still talking about growth. The CEO cannot delegate strategic planning system, which is the top team, control and accountability system, systems to grow managers, and care and feeding of the corporate culture. I said, I don't know if Robert was in the room, I've had an open door policy all my life since I was the CEO of a public company 20 plus years ago. And very few people come into my office to talk to me. And then I forced people, in hindsight it was wrong, I forced 6 people to have lunch with me once a month. In my office, I had a big, huge office, had a big conference thing with big, and so 6 people would come in to have lunch with me once a month. And my assistant, God love her, Leanne Kelly, would always sit in on the lunch. She says, I know you need a witness just in case. You never know what's going to happen. So she used to come in, and I heard, there's not enough good-looking guys in the office. The girls are too easy. Can we put a steam bath in the, I built a gym in the office. We had 48,000 square feet. I built a gym so they wouldn't have to take as much time going to, they didn't have First Fitness and that shit, then a gym. Then I built a staircase between the 17th and 18th floor because I let some jerks convince me, a time and motion study, that all the time they wasted having to just wait in the elevator, all this shit. So I built a staircase, between the floors. And all kinds of stuff, how does your wife ever come into town, Mr. Pena? This is from women, and well, it's none of your business how often my wife is here. Don't you get lonely, Mr. Pena? I said, no, I don't get lonely. That's why I have a bath and a shower in my office so I can sleep here. So I cut out the forced lunches, and then I used to have quarterly dinners for the employees of the quarter, employees of the month, and I did all that. I set up a pension fund for the, college scholarship fund, both for the kids that were going to go off to college, and then the coal miners told me, and the drilling people told me, well, Dan, not everyone's going to go off to college. Can we have a trade? For a trade, they learn a trade to be a plumber and that kind of stuff. We set up that. We did all the stuff the human resource books said. But at the end of the day, we had a baseball team. We had a badminton team. We had a soccer team. We had a basketball team. I don't know what else. We had fishing trips. We had picnics. We had all kind of shit that you can think of. But at the end of the day, the thing that motivated them the most was fucking the money. The money. When I gave somebody a 40% bonus or an 80% bonus, and bless you, and they could buy a new vacation home or they could do this and that, that was like, lightning in their ear. So in hindsight, I could cut back on a lot of stuff, and those plans cost us several $100,000 a year, all that shit. It wasn't shit, because we did good. But, we could have done less of that and maybe given more bonuses and more stock options, because we gave a lot of stock options. But the corporate culture is something that I participated a lot in. And they like me with this being there till 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock at night more than anything. They like me humping it more than anything. And it made, on Saturday or Sunday, 40, 50, 60% of the employees would be in the office. They didn't get paid overtime.
Do you have an ironclad belief or policy that you follow when it comes to...
Shoot first and ask questions later. That's one of my ironclad policies.
That's a good one. So shoot first and ask questions later. And when an employee comes to you and asks you for a raise, my policy is never ask me for a raise. If you're going to try to put some kind of ultimatum, you're gone immediately. I will let you know beforehand that there will be no requests for a raise, and raises are due when bonuses are due. All of the stuff is subjective, and do good, and you'll be rewarded. What do you do when employees come?
Well, I've never had, in 39 years, an employee's never asked me for a raise.
But
Yeah.
if they would you, would you
Well,
do the
what I'd
same?
say is normally, because these guys don't report to me, well, first of all, they'd have to go through the supervisor, the VP of this, and then human resources, and they never get to me. But if they did get to me, I'd say, your question's out of line. I'm sure you're a hard worker, but go talk to, in one company I talked to, say, go talk to Ruth, who's the head of human resources.
But what they do say? What do they say? What's their policy? What's the policy that you make them enforce?
Oh, the policy they enforce, they have to go through their supervisor.
But it's okay to ask for a raise?
Yeah, no, you can say, no, I don't put it that way. It's all right for the employees to say, how are we doing? How's the business doing? If the business is doing shit and they still ask for a raise, something ain't right. The business is going good. And, I'm on television getting the CEO award for Texas. I mean, it's not wrong for them to think the business is going good. Okay? And if the business is going good, and it's, or in our case, we were a public company, all they had to do is look at our earnings, And my compensation was a public record. And the compensation of the board is public record. So they knew if Governor Kerry's board director's fees went up 70% last year, the company must be doing good. So in my case, they'd know. But if they were going to ask, I would do feedback and training. Is the company doing well? And I've told the employees, if the company's doing well, you can expect to do well. If the company's not doing well, we'll do everything humanly possible that you don't lose your job. But, you can't expect to raise. And another thing that I'm really adamant about, and a lot of people don't agree with me, if Benedict is a plumber, and a plumber's get $18 an hour, no matter whether you're a plumber, 10 years or 110 years, that plumber, unless he's changed his job and he goes back for other training and becomes something else, can't expect to get more than $18 an hour. I don't give a fuck if he's there 60 years. And too many companies, especially small companies, because they've been there 10, 15, 30 years, they pay too much. They pay too much. And I don't think that's right. In this country, this world that we're in up here, I mean, people have been with companies for fucking ever. And just because you're ever doesn't mean that you're going to get a 6% raise to keep up with inflation every year for 60 years. But see, that's not how they think. They think because they've been loyal, and their definition of loyal isn't my definition of loyal. My definition of loyal is you work your 40, 50 hours a week, and you should get every job task given you at the beginning of the year done on time. Even if you got to come in and work 70, 80 hours some weeks, they don't do that. Without overtime. Do you agree to these things you're going to do? Sure, I can get those done. You're going to get them done by June. So now come October and they're not done. And yet I see they took 2.5 weeks vacation. They never worked more than 46 hours in a week. And, one, I want to fire them. And certainly I'm not going to give them any bonuses or any raises. In addition, I don't like Christmas bonuses because then they associate it with Christmas and not with performance. And I just don't like it. I think it sends the wrong message. I'm going to just sit around so I can sit around there so I can get my food basket and my Christmas bonus. Well, what about performance? We had people kind of voluntarily. Everybody took a 20% pay cut 2 years ago. It's been reinstated because the business was really bad. And the way that they took a 20% pay cut is they worked 20% more hours with no overtime. And that was a nice gesture. Now, they say that I didn't force them to do it, but I would have looked very poorly upon if they didn't do it. So in that regard, I had some influence on whether they did it or not. But you can't expect to feed at the trough, Dave, yourself and not feed them more. But they will ask you for less bonuses and less etc. if they own options in the company by definition. But then you got to structure that properly. You got to structure it so you're not taking advantage of them. You got to do it the right way. But I mean, I don't have a chart on it, but I read some statistics a few years ago. The Microsoft had virtually no overtime. you know, you got $6 million worth of options, I mean, or $60,000, depending on where you are. You know, how can you, in good conscience, put in for overtime? I mean, it works. The system works. All these guys do it not because they're altruistic. They do it because the system works. The days of Henry Ford beating you with a baseball bat and bringing in the goons, as they used to call them, aren't here anymore.
What about all these, places that if you were to get people to come work for you, let's say like internships or volunteers
For free.
for free, and all of a sudden one fucking dipshit comes in and you throw him out the fucking window, and then he goes to the specific institution that sends you, and they go, we're not sending you no more fucking people. But then people still come from there, and then they go after you because they go, well, obviously they like working with you and your organization, but this person's saying that people are fucking hanging out there working for 16 hours, and you can't...
Well, interns don't get paid anyway, so interns ought to be able to work 20 hours.
No, there's paperwork that says that they can't do
Okay, well, maybe that's why my daughter, when she was an intern, didn't work those long hours.
it. Right.
But,
They want to, is what I'm trying to say, but they're not allowed to, like laws.
well, the law can't keep you from working unless you're a child, unless you're under 16 years of age, or maybe it's 18 years of age. Nobody can keep a 20-year-old from working 20 hours overtime and not get paid. If he's a child, or she's a child, then there's laws against that. But it's like if Benedict works for a deal that I'm involved in, and he's an intern, and he wants to learn, and I've had people come to me and work for me for a year, not get paid. I mean, he can work as many hours as he wants.
What do you call them, a volunteer?
Well, not, in those days, what did I call him? I didn't call him intern. I might have called, I don't remember what I called him. I might have called him volunteer.
In our organization, we even had this case where our attorney would had their staff and they were paying on salary and they were working more than 40 hours. They had an employee go sue them because if you work more than 40 hours on salary, you're subject to pay that overtime. And you can have it in all the contract and everything, but that's really the law. We pay overtime for everything that somebody works on overtime, but I find it to be best in our organization because everybody's wanting the overtime. They want that time and a half. And it's accounted for in our cost of organization, you know what I'm saying? So, if we had a supervisor...
But you're talking about paid employees, you're not talking about managers.
Yes.
Managers too?
Absolutely.
Oh, I don't pay managers overtime.
When there's a problem, they will be there if, and more likely they're gonna get somebody else to handle it if they're not being paid overtime. It's worked for us, Dan.
Okay, well, I mean, I've never seen, I won't say I've never seen, but I mean, it's less likely, I mean, managers are by definition, they're managers, they're part of the solution, they're not part of the problem. And I'd be hard pressed to know why managers get overtime.
Now, I have managers that work from home, they don't sit there and calculate up the hours or whatever, get up during the middle of the night and stuff like that, but I'm talking about when they physically come to the office.
Okay, well, if you made it work, it works.
It does.
That's all right. Okay. People don't do, and I've said this many times in the last 2.5 days, people don't do what you expect, they do what you inspect with respect, they do what you do. And again, I mean, back to leadership a little bit about leading from the front. Peter Drucker, one of my favorites, who died a year or two ago, one of the great management consultants of all time, and he taught at Claremont in outside California, Claremont Men's School. Management by objectives works if you know the objectives. 90% of the time, they don't. And that's why you'll find it's easy. Again, we're talking about growth. You want to get people on the growth bus. If they understand why they're doing something, instead of just doing it like a robot, you'll get more growth potential out of them than if they're just doing it like a robot. Okay. And I've never, with one or two or three exceptions in all the years I've been doing this, have found that I can give them too much information. I've often erred on the side of not giving them enough information, but I've never erred on the side of giving them too much information. Benedict, you're going to get all these slides. You get all the overheads and you get all this shit anyway. Okay. This is what I call the 11-step action plan. You decide on A, and how do you get A across to B? Or you're, on the 50-yard line, how do you punch it into the net? Now, we're gonna get to a 4-step plan that's more Mikey's kind of plan, but we're gonna start with the 11 steps to begin with. You identify the idea, the thing you want accomplished. Whether it's more laptops a day, or a company you want to buy, whatever the hell it is. Then you investigate, this is you, not anybody else, you, the decision maker. You investigate the generalities. What do I mean by generalities? Okay, are we an up economy or a down economy? I mean, are we making money this quarter, not making money this quarter? Have we expended our overdraft or we haven't expended our overdraft? I mean, are we poised to make an investment in something else and we should be ready? You look at the generalities of the business model. Okay. Assuming that it's positive, then you investigate the specifics. Okay, now you look at the specific details of what it will take to get the thing done. Okay, if it's a manufacturing thing, do we really have on-site capabilities in engineering? Do we have to outsource it? If we got to outsource it, how much time do we have to get the bids, to get 3 bids? And I believe on any kind of expenditure, business expenditure, you should get at least 3 bids, 3 independent bids, so they tell you how much it's going to cost. You don't always go with a low bid, but you need 3 independent bids. Then the commitment to the idea by you. Okay, the first 3 are positive, and then that doesn't happen overnight. Now with me, I mean, I can do the first 3 in a few hours. I can figure it out because I've done so many of these things. So now you get committed. You get obsessed. This is you again. You're not only dealing with you. This is the most fucking important thing since sliced bread, since Jesus Christ, mother and apple pie. You're not going to do anything else until this is done. Okay. Now you bring in the preliminary decision, you and others, you bring them in. Okay, and if you're a one-man show, you don't have anybody to bring in, you got you. It's back to you. But if you got 2 or 3 people in the deal, then you bring the 2 or 3 people in the deal. And you're like a coach, you get them all pumped up, like a show dog. You get them all obsessed, okay? And you say, okay, we're the team, we're the universe of this, getting this deal done. And so now we are going to live it totally until we get it done. Okay. And you can't have somebody working on 5, 6, 7 different projects. Okay. This is one project. Why? Because so you can be laser beam focused. Now your investigation continues. Investigation never stops because I found deals the day before the closing, the day before the lawyers and accountants and everybody signed. I decided not to do it because we continue to investigate. Tim Harris, my top lawyer, tells me, I just found out the guy did this, that, and the other thing. Or we just found out, we just got a leak from the government that the law is going to change, whatever. Okay, so you always continue to investigate. Then you put an action plan, you and other decision makers. The action plan will be get the rest of the people in the company or in the division or in the group obsessed. And you walk your talk and you never share a doubt. I already told you about me sharing a doubt, and I don't share doubts, before they pull the plug on my breathing machine, I'm going to say I'm going to live to be 315, and I'm going to bury Robert and Sally like I always tease them about because I got a better heart than they do, and then they pull the plug, okay? But I'm never going to tell anybody, well, I'm not sure. No, you should never share a doubt. And that's one of the biggest and most critical things I see in the amateurs. None of the high performance people share doubts. None! And all the amateurs do. Okay. Critical path, other decision makers. Now if you have other people, if it's only you, then it's you. You put the critical path together, a timeline. Okay, this has got to be done by Monday, this has got to be done by next Thursday, this has got to be done in 2, etc. Critical path. Hopefully, you're not having to do. When you got to do all this, when you get used to it, it's not so difficult. But when you do it the first couple of times, this is a lot of shit to do. Okay, you put the critical path together. Okay. Then, let's see, okay. Detailed observation of the timeline, I already said that. And then you continue to measure. You perform and measure, recalculate, perform and measure. You don't fail. No rocket ship goes straight to the moon. It fails its way to the moon because you continue to readjust. Implementation, the other decision makers, again, if it's not just you, focus follow-up on other levels. So they're continuing to follow up on the other 2 or 3 levels if you have that. If not, you're just continuing to follow up on your own self to make sure that you get this shit done. Focus follow-up of the decision makers that report to you. And then execution, laser beam focus, lead from the front, never second guess yourself or second guess your senior people. Better to get the deal done even with some mistakes than not to get it done. And then you always have time to reevaluate. Reevaluation of the monitoring system continues throughout the process. Now, the deal's done. And you go back and you look at what you said you were going to do against what you did. Okay, let's say you got 88% of the shit, like you said. That's high. It's probably not going to be that high. It'll be 60 or 70%, but you're still able to get it done. Why is it 88% or why isn't it 100%? Because shit happens. Yeah. But then you go back and you look at why it didn't happen at 100%. What can we learn from it? And you sit in a room, you know, a week or a weekend pass, you know, everybody relaxes, has a couple of drinks, and he says, okay, what did we learn from this? How could we have done it better? What's the difference between 88 and 100? This, and this. We allowed the lawyers to bullshit us and get off the hook and not perform as they said they would, the accountants, whatever the reason. In some cases, regulatory actions happen. The law changes. Now, normally you have a heads up about law changes, but it doesn't always. You know, there may be something in Congress, depending on the business you're in, that will be changed retroactive to January 1, 2008. And here you're closing tomorrow. So you go in and you cut a deal, you know, you indemnify them a little, they indemnify you a little, and you still get it done. My advice, sage as it is that a deal done that is close to being what you thought it was is better than no deal at all. Then there's the Mikey system. The slam bam, thank you ma'am. You know, thanks for the fuck, sweetheart. Get out of my life. You think about what the outcome you want. Okay, you think about the desired completion. How much are you willing to commit? In other words, what's your pay price to action? How much sweat, blood, and tears and skin am I willing to give to this deal? You measure the deal periodically. I like to measure them daily. Some people measure them weekly. I would never go beyond weekly. And you understand that you're going to modify the plan as you go through. You change the plan as necessary. And you measure the modified plan. And you cut it down. This is easier if there's only one person. It's one person. There's not enough to do if there's more than one person. As I said, if you send a rocket toward the moon, about 95% of the time it's off course. It fails its way to the moon by continually making mistakes and correcting them. I see more deals die because they get a plan and they put the plan, they tell their board or whoever they're going to do, and they put it in their desk, and then they never look at it again, and they expect in 3 months it to be completed. And then they're surprised why it isn't completed. Because there was no continual monitoring of it. I know some of the stuff that Robert and I are involved in, I mean, they're daily monitored, hourly monitored. And I wish that we could monitor it more than hourly. Because, you know, like it said, some people are so worthless, you know, and some people are so good, the few, and there's some people so worthless. You can monitor by the second. And it's normally when the people are so worthless is because when you're asking them to quantum leap out of their comfort zone. It's something that they just can't live with, you know, they can't. They just can't. Another simple way of looking at this is that what I call the pay price to action. We have a problem that needs to be solved. In 21st century jargon, we have a challenge. And I want to tell you the difference between a challenge and a problem. A challenge is the difference between having your 5th and 6th orgasm. That's the challenge. The problem is not having any fucking organisms. So just remember that. Okay, we want more revenue, we want higher net worth, we want a 3-hour marathon, we want to lose 20 pounds, well-adjusted children. Yes to all three. We all have problems, but we don't want to solve all our problems. It depends on the cost to solve or pay price to action. We want to be wealthy, problem, but we don't want to work hard, pay price to action. We know what it takes to lose weight, more exercise, less calories, but we don't do it. We want to run a 3-hour marathon, and we know we've got to run 40 to 70 miles a week. Forget about it. We know intuitively in our heart and in our brain what it takes to do some of these things. We need to grow our business. How do we grow our business? Well, we need another sawmill or another whatever the hell it is, or a bigger sawmill. How do we get a bigger sawmill? Well, we got to get more money somewhere. Do we have money? We have part of the money to put up, but we got to go to financial institutions and convince them with the collateral of the new sawmill, and if we keep the old sawmill, it's enough money, yada, yada. We know all that. But if we never talk to any financial institutions, we're never going to buy any other sawmill unless we fund it all out of our money. And if none of us want to go to the financial institution, we're pissing in the wind, so why are we talking about it? And we're faced with problems, challenges, situations like that every single day. And for the most part, much of management that reports to us isn't candid with us. Won't tell us, well, that's a stupid idea, Dave. Who the fuck came up with that idea? Do you realize how difficult it is, whatever the idea is? I want you to quadruple the amount of shit that you put out every day. What's he smoking? I mean, is he down here breaking my fingernails? No, he's not. He doesn't even come to the office for fucking a week. You know, jerking around with his girlfriend. That's why the people on the floor normally will have a better idea. But the people on the floor have to be pushed. Because if you ask them if it can be done, they'll say no. So you got to push them. So the key is, how far can you push them? How far to get them to the Peter principle, which is the Peter principle where they can't do it anymore efficiently. Then you drop them down about 10% from their Peter principle, and they work effectively. What they want to be dropped down is 50% below their Peter principle. So they can smoke and joke and relax and listen to the radio and all that bullshit. So your job, or the people that report to you, your manager's job, is to push them up towards the Peter principle. Not all the way over. I've done that a few times, and that's why I've got nervous breakdowns, and I've had a few people die.
Peter principle?
Peter.
I get what it means, but
Peter, that's what it's called. Some guy came up with it 50, 60 years ago. It's called the Peter principle. When you push somebody beyond their range of being effective. Absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. Just because Dave's never done it, or Marcus never has done it, or Mike has never done it, doesn't mean it can't be done. Absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. In other words, just because you've never done it doesn't mean it can't be done. That's the old story, when a tree falls in the forest, does it really make a noise, or does it only make a noise when you're there listening to it? I'm here to tell you it makes a noise whether you're there or not. And a lot of people, and some people that have been in the company 30, 40, 50 years, would say, that can't be done, Or, as I said, the words that eliminate from your vocabulary, that's not the way we do it here. Especially now in the 21st century, all kinds of new data and information and research about brains and how they function and what you can get them to do, an individual to do, is pretty dynamic, even as compared to 10 or 15 years ago. And as I said, structure follows strategy. We figure out what we're going to do as a group or as an individual, then we build the strategy around it. Not we have a strategy and then we try to make we have a structure and we try to make our strategy fit it. And that's the biggest reason companies fail when they try to acquire or merge, because they're not doing it this way, structure follows strategy. AOL Time Warner is a classic example why it failed. The last thing IBM needs right now is a vision. What it needs right now are tough-minded, market-driven, highly effective strategies. This is something that Robert used to have on his emails. I don't know if he does anymore. There are times that when you need nothing more than highly effective strategy. You don't need a vision. when you're trying to pay your rent for the next 3 months and you got no money, you don't need a vision. You need a strategy that gets you the money to pay. Now, this is another hard thing for people to understand. As long as your troughs and peaks are higher than the ones before, your quantum leap program is working. As long as you're in that direction. But what happens is when you're here, fuck, this thing doesn't work. Or when you're here even. Or even here. This fucking thing doesn't work. You know, what is he, crazy? What's Pena smoking? And that's because we lose heart, because we have a lack of self-confidence. When you have an experienced board, and more importantly, an experienced mentor, he'll walk you through these. He'll walk you through these troughs. I've been through so many troughs, I can't remember now. But it's always been, I've always gone from peak to peak to peak. Andrew Carnegie once said, the prime condition of success, concentrate your energy, thought, and capital exclusively upon the business in which you are engaged. Having begun on that line, resolve to fight it out and to lead in it. What happens when people start to be successful and start to accumulate cash is they diversify. Wrong. And I use the example when I was with the Onassis group, Costa Grazos, who was the CEO of Aristotle Onassis, who was my mentor, and who was the lifetime friend for 65 years of Aristotle Onassis. He used to say, every 20 or 30 years we get so far ahead in cash, we diversify and we lose. And he gives me the examples. We own 107 ships of Panamanian flag. Pay for cash, no debt. So we decided to build Olympic Towers on 54th and 5th, I think. When I was there, it was only 40% occupied. We don't know how to manage a building. We didn't know how to build a building. Now we got the building. Then 20 years later, we decided we're making so much money, we're going to go in the airline business, because the airline business was hot. They started Olympic Airlines. You know, they had 60 planes or 50 planes, paid a bunch of money for each one. Didn't know how to run the business. Didn't know how to buy airplanes correctly. We gave the planes back to the Greek government. Gave the airlines to him. All we know how to do is count cash. That's all we know how to do. So we just build up cash. And that's where I got the idea, build up cash. All the rest is bullshit. We don't give a fuck about inflation. We don't give a fuck about the government. We don't give a fuck about taxes. We just build up cash. And fortunately, that settled with me. I took that to heart. I used to sit in Christine Onassis' office, which was my office, and she was very seldom came in the office. And I used to look down over on St. Patrick's Cathedral. And Robert's heard this. I used to put my feet up on the desk, sit back, and in those days you could smoke in the building, smoking a cigar. This is the life. And then the phone on the desk had direct lines to the Vatican, President, CEO General Motors, and all these. And every once in a while, I never pushed those others, but I used to push the Vatican button in the White House. I used to push the Vatican button. And they say, I forget how they answer the phone now. And I'd hang up the phone, and then I'd do it again, but it was a great relationship. Again, as I said earlier, I wished I had told him how much he meant to me, but that's why my suggestion is the people that do mean something to you, tell them before they're dead.
That's the guy who lost a bunch of wives at sea?
Yeah. He lost, legend is that he's lost 6 wives at sea. Terrible sea accidents. They all drowned. Wow. What are you going to do? Shit happens. His 7th wife, who was Austrian, come to think of it, would never go on a boat with him. She wouldn't fly with him, like the trains. They never left the United States. And some of the advice he gave me, and he used to shuffle like this when he got old in his 80s, like this, and he used to hold my arm and be going. He says, Mr. Pena, you always call me Mr. Pena. You never call me Dan. I called him Mr. Grazos, then Constantine, then Costa towards the end of his life. And he'd say, Mr. Pena, would you like to have lunch? And we'd always go to Le Grand Couille, which is across the street, French restaurant. There was always a table open. And he said, well, I'm gonna go to the men's room. So we shuffle over there and we're taking a pee, and he's talking to me, he says, two of the great bits of advice that he ever gave me, and he says, use it before you lose it. We're both taking a pee. Use it before you lose it. I said, yes, sir. I know the time we're in the toilet. And he says to me, he says, come here. He says, Mr. Pena, he looks at the urinal, not the urinal, but the commode. You see that commode? He says, what do you see there? I see porcelain, water. He says, look at the water level. I said, yes. And he says, what would happen if you stuck your fist in the water level? And I said, well, it would displace water and the water would rise. And what would happen if you pulled your fist out of the water? Well, the water would go back down and it'd be just like my fist was never there. That's life. You die and nobody's going to know anything that you even lived. So just remember that. You're nothing in, when you think something's so important and you got such a big decision, etc., and I said, and I derived from that in the cosmos of time, we're nothing but a fart in the wind. And he's right. It's still, put your fist in the toilet, it's like you weren't there. The only man who never makes a mistake is the man who never does anything. We talked about that already. In growth, I mean, you got a plan for success, no backup plans, and I don't like backup plans, or plan B, C, and D, because then subconsciously, we're talking about growth still, subconsciously, you know you can fall back on plan B. But if there is no plan B, then you make plan A work. The more you investigate, the less you have to invest. Another great line I got. Because I investigate so much, I mean, I don't invest that much. Because there's always something, there's no perfect investment. But if you do enough homework, you always find something, wrong with it. And so at the end of the day, you have to go with your gut feel. Getting people selling your dream and letting go of part of it. Don't get trapped by pride of authorship. I've seen pride of authorship kill more deals than Jews were killed by Hitler during the war. My business is worth too much money. I can't let loose of, 10% or 20% or 30%. What if they throw me out? I've seen pride of authorship kill more deals than anything. If you experience no anxiety and discomfort, the risk you're taking probably isn't worthy of you. The only risks that aren't a little scary are the ones you've outgrown. A high comfort level provides solid evidence that you're playing it safe, not growing, not really testing your limits at all, and not in the process of a quantum leap. Doris yesterday didn't feel as well as she may have done the first day because she was using herself and measuring herself against some of the benchmarks we went through, both this time around and 2 years around. And I said that most of you have never been sick to your stomach about something. Maybe in a love affair, your wife left you, or you found your wife having an affair and it made you ill, and blah, blah. But I mean, if you're not having those feelings in business, it's because you're not stretching yourself. You're not stretching yourself. Progress often masquerades as trouble. When I asked you, and I already said this, how are things doing, Doris? She says, wonderful. I know the business is dying. I'd rather hear, oh, the bank's trying to foreclose, the this, the that, acquisition fell out of bed, swine, I want to fucking kill them, that's what I want to hear. Never time to count your victories. Any problem solved will be immediately replaced by a larger, more complicated one. This is a tough thing to get across to my kids. They get through a problem, an emotional problem. What do you think of that, Dad? I solved it. I said, yeah, okay, that's great, son. But another worse one's coming. Gee, Dad, why don't you let me live in the light of some... Because I'm just being honest with you. The shit's going to hit the fan.
If you're doing it right.
Yeah. We're going to have one more role play. Okay. Who's up? We can have repeaters, so... Who's up?
I'll do it.
You haven't done it, Marcos.
I don't know if my English is good enough.
It's
So.
I'll talk Albanian. Do it yet. Then it's gonna go on, but don't use the cash.
Couple of these bathroom break.
Yeah, okay, quick math.
Okay.
Give it a shot. Come on. Come on. You do it in German, I'll do it in Albanian, right? That's she shut on and pussy me. We'll have to translate it.
And we'll have a Russian mediator.
Just do it.
Nike.
Oh.
You said just do it, I said Nike. Just write it.
I'm not taking more. Stop that. Who's it gonna be for the next, okay,
Albanians versus Russians.
okay. I was gonna say, we should have you speak Albanian, you speak German, and then you translate into Russian. Okay, this is the deal. Let's use your real business. Let's use let's make it a shorter goal. Let's make it 5 million in revenue, and you need well, how much money would you need to increase?
5 million?
Yeah,
I think we need around about 2 million.
2 million.
2 million.
Okay, I was just asking him. His brother work 100 hours a week, right? Does your dad work that?
My dad works 80 hours in the sawmill and 20 hours in the farmer. At the farm, sorry.
You have a farm.
Yeah. My father has a farm. Yeah.
Okay, how old is your dad?
51, 52, and he works from 16 years until he's 16. He works each day. Each day.
Each day.
Each day.
Yeah. And it's good. That's where Clausewitz comes from. See, good Austrian. That's why they had good soldiers. Okay, so you need 2 million from the bank to increase your revenues to 5 million. Okay, so you're going to go into Mikey. He's the banker. He's your friendly Austrian banker.
It's my banker, huh?
Yeah. Okay.
You gotta sell me.
Okay. And what big city do you live near?
Big city? Okay, there are 3,000. It's called Obdach, and there are 3,700 people.
3,700.
Yes, a very big one.
That's the big city.
How close to Vienna are you?
210 kilometers.
Okay. 3,700. 2,700. Okay. You sent them the package.
Yeah.
I'm your chairman. I have had experience in the wood business, not in sawmills, but in general wood. And you have a PricewaterhouseCoopers are your accountants. I don't just pick any German law firm name. I don't know any. Oh no. I'm trying to think of the name of the German firm. I can't think of it now. Anyway, and you want $2 million for 5 years, and you can increase your business roughly, I guess, 4 times.
4 times.
Okay?
4 times.
Okay, let's go.
Okay, hi.
Good day.
Nice to see you again.
Thanks for coming to the big city, all 3,700 of us.
It's a pleasure. So it's going about this thing. We want to go up to 5 million total revenue. For this plan, I need 2 million.
Mm-hmm.
You know my numbers. We grew up 3 times last year. Our margin is by 20%. The numbers are really good. And now I have...
Are they better than your competitors?
Pardon?
Are they better than your competitors? How much better?
We're around about 10% better than our competitors.
So right now, you're 10% better.
Yeah.
Next year, how much percent better will you be with the money?
With the money, it's bigger, we can earn more, and we will use it to be
Is it
better in the
short-term
pro-
growth, or does it take a while, long-term growth?
No, it's a short term.
Quick?
Yeah. I think we will need 2 until 3 hours, 3 years, 2 years maybe, to grow up to a total revenue for 5 million.
So within 3 years,
Um,
that's,
but-
so let me get this straight, so within the 3rd year, that's when you need to actually start growing?
No, we start growing now, okay?
Now!
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 I like now, now good.
And it will take 2 years to get in a whole year a total revenue of about 5 million euro, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? By margin by 20%, so we are around about by 1 million before tax. So you can see it's a, I think, not so bad thing. It's not really good, but not so bad. So I think we should do it, and let's go.
Okay, well, tell me a little bit about your competition, though. Are these companies that you can put out of business or anything you can acquire
Oh,
to
it's
grow
just,
bigger?
it's
Or your competition's getting money also? To beat
no,
you out?
for
Are
the
they asking for 10 million from somewhere
Yeah.
to beat your ass? Do you know that they were here
No,
this
they
morning?
can't. No,
Oh, they can't do it.
They can't beat me.
How come?
Because I'm, is it right positioning? I don't need. Okay, I make a really different.
You have a unique selling proposition.
Yes, right.
Oh.
That's the other thing that all other makes. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I'm positioning by a really smart market, but I want to want to go bigger, and that's the thing we connect.
Does that include marketing and distribution?
Yes.
in this?
All inclusive.
Mm-hmm.
Of the board, the chairman is Mr. Pena.
I know.
Okay. You can call him if you want.
Nah, I'm not looking to call him. I don't
You
need
can
to
have
call
the number,
him.
you can call him.
I don't need to call him. Big enough.
Okay, and you know every other things, the lawyers.
You know, I was just, going
My-
through
you
our
know my
finances.
lawyers,
You need 5 million, right?
But
Do you have anything that you can back that by?
seriously, now we always had to make a thing that we are made something for you. I don't know. I take
You have
money.
machines, right?
Yes.
How much money machines do you have?
Oh, now it's around about 400,000.
You own them outright.
Yeah. Okay, but that's not the thing. You got nothing for me. You know because you know my numbers. You know how it works. You know where we're coming from.
Yeah.
And now we have the German Mr. Pena. And if there's something going wrong, then everything
Would you
will
be
go
willing?
wrong.
Would you be willing to put up
Huh?
your equipment as collateral?
But once again,
Would you be willing to put up all your $400,000 of equipment that you own, that's yours,
yes.
up as collateral? That if this deal goes bad, by me doing the cash flow drawdown on your company and it's not doing as well as you're supposed to be doing,
Yeah.
by this time, I take your machines and you had a fucking business.
No, that we don't want to do. Cause
Hmm.
let's make a deal, okay? We make 10%. It's maybe from 400,000. It's then 40,000, and that's the deal. You got it. You can do it or not. You got it. You can have 40,000 to be sure that the business gonna ride.
How
And-
fast do you blow through 40,000?
Pardon?
How fast can you blow through 40,000?
Spend.
Spend 40,000 tomorrow.
One day. Every day,
You
your
mean-
operation costs 40,000 a day?
Once again, I cannot understand. I mean, 40.
Okay, I have $40,000 of your assets now,
Yeah.
okay? This is your 40,000 and I'm
Yeah.
sipping it.
Yeah.
How long does it take you to sip your 40,000?
40,000. Maybe 1 month.
1 month? You know what? I could deal with 1 month. Would you be willing to give me the operations weekly for about 2-3 weeks and then we can take it from there?
The operation, what the
For you next-
Operation reports.
For your
Yeah, the
operation reports?
Oh, you can have it monthly.
Like have it monthly? No, I'd like to start off weekly and I'll be able to like...
Okay, let's make the deal. It's too long for me.
Yeah, I've
we,
never heard
we,
of
we
it.
make. You got the numbers monthly. And first of all, the first 3 months. The
I'm
first
willing-
3
I'm willing to do
months.
the deal.
The first 3 months, you get it. Okay. Then if the numbers are right, you give me the money of all, and then we make the business. If not, I go out and go to other bank. Okay.
What are the bank? I'm the
Hey,
biggest.
come on! We have made every business now, and now that's the thing.
What do you
Okay,
think?
you can do it or not.
Are you gonna go to Scotland?
God, yeah, okay, you made now that only you are the one bank in this town, but I can go to the next one or to the
Then
next.
who's gonna work to bring in the money?
But
How many hours a week do you work?
how many hours?
Yeah,
Myself,
yourself.
100.
You're gonna lose 100 hours a week for 2 weeks if you leave town. Where are you gonna go?
You can, yes, I can. So if you don't want to do it, we have to.
I
make
didn't
it.
say I didn't want to do it. I'm just saying you have to play ball on my terms. Every week, I want to fucking know what you, your dad, and your brother's doing, and how good you're doing it based on
You got it monthly, my friend. And if it's not enough, okay, you got it monthly. Okay, you got it monthly.
2 months.
You got it monthly, twice, okay?
But this is all contingent upon the first few months, the whole deal. You know that. This isn't a done deal, as they say. I'm willing to give you the money, but I want, you said it happens like this, right?
Yes.
Not 1 year.
No, I don't can change the revenue like this to 5 million 1 year. I need 2 years.
You said you need 3 years.
Two until 3 years.
But the
I
growth
need this
happens
time.
quickly.
Yes, of course.
And you said very quickly, so you said instantaneously, quickly.
Yes.
So I expect to see the results quickly.
Yes.
So where the fuck are you going? You going out of town for 100 hours a week? What happens if your brother gets sick? That's 200 hours. What happens, God forbid, your whole family gets sick. 300 hours, you're going down. Why should I be in this deal?
Once again, I know $300 and I should what? Going down.
God forbid, okay. Who
He
else
says
got-
if all three of you get sick, there'll be nobody to run the sawmill.
Okay. Next of the thing, why should go sick?
Cause man playing, God laughs.
And the next thing is, there are not only 3 guys, there are 6, 7, 8. 8 guys.
You have
around
8
the-
employees.
Yes, my
Okay.
friend. Hey, you should know it. Come on, what's
So
up
you
with you?
have to make.
You make me sick, seriously.
Yeah, but who? None of them know how to freaking.
That's exactly how talk to the Germans when if you're not prepared, as they are, that's exactly how they talk to you.
Yeah, seriously, you have to know. You might. Unbelievable.
You know, I should read
We
this
make
again.
business since 2 years, and you don't know how much employees I have.
Hey, I don't-
Normally I stand up and get out there.
Okay. And that's exactly how they are in that part of the world. I mean,
That's crazy.
yeah, they
Oh,
expect,
that's great.
they expect you to be prepared. If you're the banker for 2 years, he
Yeah.
expects you to know the numbers. Yeah, and so.
Because we are a really small town, you have to know it.
I
And
just
if you're
care
a
about
bank or not,
performance.
you have to know it.
Yeah.
I just care about performance. That's it. You
Uh-huh.
know? Keep them accountable.
Okay, well, that was a little entertaining. Okay.
Who says business can't be fun?
Yeah.